Today we're going to start the Dalet Amud Aleph, holding by Amar Rava. It's a little over halfway down. 94 A. A little over halfway down, right? Amar Rava. I thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In this list of our learning, we should have the basic English immediately. Amar Aleph. Oh. In my Gemara, the line starts with Shammai, and it says Amar Rava. Also learning in the memory of Zahava Golda, Gospel of Binyamin. Okay. Gemara says Amar Rava. Mimai. How do we know this? Okay, we have to go back. What are we talking about over here? Abaya said that there were how many sages? Shimon ben Yehuda, Beishamai, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi Shimon Elazar, and Rabbi Shmuel, 5 sages. 5 sages that all held that Shinoi b'mekayim hayomed, that even if you change the item, it stays the same. It stays in the possession of the original status, the original owner. And we quoted each one of these sages brought a different had a different topic, and in that topic we said Shinoi is that even if you change it, it still stays the same status. So Rava says, Mimai, how do you know that all of those sages really held the way you're claiming that they held? Dilma, perhaps, Adkan like Reb Shimon ben Yehuda. When did Reb Shimon ben Yehuda say his halacha? Reb Shimon ben Yehuda's halacha was when someone dyes the wool before he gives it to the kohen, right? So Reb Shimon ben Yehuda said that even if he dyes the wool, he still combine the different shearings of wool, right? We said that you needed a certain measurement of wool all together. When you reach that measurement, okay, now you have the obligation to give to the kohen. So it says, let's say you dyed the wool, you colored the wool in segments, a little bit and then a little bit. So the sages said that it doesn't combine. You don't have enough wool here because each one you already processed. So, and Reb Shimon ben Yehuda says that it does combine. I'm sorry.
And the result of saying that it stays in the reshus of the ball is that you return the thing rather than money.
When it comes to stealing, then it means you return the item. That's correct, rather than the value.
So is that the main point of the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that when it comes to the Shinoi, it's you return even though you've changed it, but you still return the original item. Oh, there's no more. Oh, that's what happened.
Yeah. No more.
You need a volume 4.
No more. Only 3.
Oh. There's no 53. Okay. So, the Spanish Gemara here finishes.
So if he improved it, then he would
still have to give it back, according to these opinions. Yeah.
So it's different from the notes.
It looks like it's from different sheep. Would that matter or not?
Yeah, from different sheep. So each one he's dyeing it. So Reb Shimon ben Yehuda says the sages say that it doesn't combine. Shimon ben Yehuda says it does combine because it stays as much as you've changed it. It still stays the same. One second. How do you know that it's because the change doesn't matter? So Rava is suggesting maybe he only said that over there, B'tzeva, when it's talking about dye, because you're able to fine maybe, and that you're able to remove it through soap. So it's not a real change. Maybe that's what maybe if it would be a real change, you would hold that it actually doesn't combine all the different sheep. But over here, it wasn't a real change because just dyeing it washes out in the mikveh. No, they're not going to the mikveh. They're putting it in the laundry machine. But
kind of like a Latin word for soap too, sabon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's interesting because over here, safon is soap, sabon is soap. In And in Spanish also, and not.
Jabón. Jabón soap.
What is it?
Jabón.
Jabón.
Yeah, soap.
Uh-huh.
In French and Portuguese, it's with an S. Sabon.
Uh-huh. Interesting. And maybe Beishamai said that if someone pays the woman that that he sins with, pays her with the sheep, you can't use that sheep for sacrifice. But Beishamai said that what happens if he paid her with flour and he ground it? What happens if he paid her in olives and she turned it into oil? Beishamai says that it's still prohibited. Why? Because even though you made a change, but the change doesn't do anything. Maybe maybe that's only by a carbon, because we're extra strict by the carbon, because you don't want to give this to. But if someone would just steal and then he would make a change, he would be allowed to pay the original price, the original value, and even though and he would keep the item because he made a change. Because when you change it, it becomes yours. It makes a kinyan. Right? The case of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov was if someone stole wheat and then he ground it and he wants to separate challah, said that he's not allowed to because it was stolen, he can't make the bracha. So maybe maybe over there there's a problem because it's a mitzvah ba'avera, but in other cases where it doesn't have to do with making a bracha, you just say that you keep the item and you pay the original value because you changed it. And if it was theft or robbery. Theft, you have to pay double. Robbery, you only pay once. Reb Shimon ben Elazar, he said that you're allowed to actually return the item, even though a change was made, an improvement was made. You're allowed to return it to the original owner. Or, yeah, you return the item to the original owner. But did we say kol shvach sheshviach gazen yodai in 1 second? He has the upper hand. If he wants, he can keep the improvements. If he wants, he can say, "You take the item." And how did you explain that? You said that that he gives the item back, and then the owner pays him for the improvements. But basically, he has a possibility of actually giving the item back. Now, Rava says maybe that's only because we're talking over there. Oh, this is when it got weak. When it got weak. When it gets weak, we said he can give it back. Now, maybe Reb Shimon ben Elazar only said that you can give it back. That's only about kasha dehadar. It got weak in a way that you can change it. It's not a permanent weakness, which means that maybe he didn't feed it enough. And if the original owner will feed it now, it'll gain back its original weight, which means he didn't make a real change in it. He didn't make a permanent change. He made a temporary change, put it on the diet. Maybe that's where Shimon also says that he doesn't acquire it.
But he said if he improved it, then the guy who he's giving it to has to pay him. He has to
pay him for
thief.
the
So if he weakened it, maybe the thief has to give it back to him with the additional food he needs to restore it.
Yeah,
symmetric, but I guess not. It says,
it doesn't say that.
Here's your weakened animal. Here's your feeble animal.
Right.
Enough because then he won't give it back. He gets to give it back and money.
Yeah.
Rabbi Shmuel said that if someone takes he forgot to give payah, or maybe didn't on purpose, and he already ground up the flour and turned it into dough, so you still have to give payah. Maybe that. So we said 1 second, but you already changed it. So maybe Rabbi Shmuel holds that's only over there. Elinian payah misham d'ksiv tazav yisera, because the pasuk that talks about the gifts to the aniyim says an extra time tazav you should leave it. Because there's a pasuk says that you should leave it, that tells me that even if you change it, you still have to leave it. But in other cases where you didn't change it, maybe we would say that in other cases where you did change it, we would say that you keep it because it's a change and it's considered something totally different. Not like by payah where we keep it the same. The Gemara says, well, if there's an extra pasuk, then there's an extra pasuk, then that would be a precedent. We should learn from that to everywhere else. Rabbi Shmuel really does hold that shinui b'mkayim, that it changed, stays in its same status. Gemara says, no, we're not going to learn from there because matanis aniyim shani. Everyone knows that the gifts to the poor are different. Thank you. I'm sorry. Rabbi Yonasan. Thank you. Like Rabbi Yonasan asked the question. Thank you. Rabbi Yonasan asked the question. My time with the Rabbi Shmuel. What's the reason for Rabbi Shmuel? Rabbi Shmuel was the one that said that you have to give the payah even though you've already ground the flour. Usually the payah is you just leave the corner of the field unharvested. You already made a change in it. You still have to give it. But Rabbi Yonasan asked the question, what's the reason for Rabbi Shmuel? Is it mishum de kasavar shina in a kaina? Is it because he holds that changing it doesn't matter? Shina b'mkaima aymed, that it stays in the same status. Which means that he's following the way Rava would learn it. I'm sorry. Is it the way Abaya learns it? That Shina in a kaina, that changing it doesn't do anything, which is the way Abaya learned it. He put him into all the sages that say that the Shina doesn't do anything, a change doesn't do anything. Or maybe it's the way Rava learned it. Maybe it's because of the extra pasuk. So we already had this question exactly, and so Rava has a good point. 1 second. How does Rava have a good point? 1 second. If we actually hold that Shina Yenakaina, if you go like Abaya, that Shina Yenakaina, so then Taziv Yisir the Kasar Rahman Alamali. So why is there an extra pasuk? Now it's the Kasha on Abaya. If it's because of the pasuk, that's why even though you changed it, you still have to give it. Then I understand why I have a pasuk. But if you never have to, the change never does anything. So then why do you need an extra pasuk? Besu, another question. The Rabbanan Tasi V'Seir D'Kas Rachman Alamali. That was only the opinion of who was that Rabbi Shmuel. What about the Rabbanan? They hold that you don't have to take you don't have to separate payah after it's changed. According to them, what do you need the extra pasuk for? The Gemara answers, "Mi baile lekadetanya." That's not a question because we still need the extra pasuk for something else. And this goes like this: it says, "Hamafker karmai." If someone decides to make his vineyard ownerless, he wakes up in the morning, and he takes it back and he starts to harvest it, which means that he's reacquiring it back from hefker, from ownerlessness. So the rule is that usually when you acquire something from hefker, you're exempt from all the gifts to the poor. This guy really did a trick. He's getting himself out from paying taxes, right?
Right.
He somehow he avoids by making it ownerless, and then he takes it back, laundering somehow. Well, he's it's like making a donation, right? But the rule is that it doesn't help. He's chayav beperet ba'ilus b'shikha bepeya. The only one that it helps for is patim and amaisa. Now the reason for that is because by the other ones it has the pasuk of tazev, says you should leave it. That means even though he made it hefker, he's still going to be chayav. Now the truth is that this is only because he didn't make it a full hefker. He kept it still in his property. He made it hefker, but he didn't take it out of his property. So so that's why it's not a real hefker. If he would have been a real hefker, that he would have taken the items and put it in the street, then that would have been different. So we have a use for the pasuk of tazav, even according to the Rabbanan, and also according to the way Abaya would learn Rabbi Shmuel. Okay.
He didn't give opportunity for people to come and collect the.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. He didn't give them opportunity to collect it. It wasn't really a hefker. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda, is a student of Shmuel, and he says, Halacha Reb Shimon ben Elazar.
By the way, what you just mentioned, that's what all foundations, not all private foundations like the Kennedy Clinton Foundation. They donate money to get out of taxes, and they use it for their own political purposes, and it's tax-free.
Right.
They learn that from this.
There's a discussion in halacha when it comes to meiser. If you're allowed to use all of your meiser money for your own personal causes of meiser. Like if someone has relatives that he wants to support, can he give all his meiser to these relatives that he wants to support or that are poor, that are eligible, or should it be allocated to other things that aren't only personal agendas? I think you are allowed to buy a sefer Torah with meiser. Oh, it actually says that like svar. It says svarim for people that don't have. Yeah.
What about paying for tuition?
That's the big question. Tuition, you really can't pay for anything that's an obligation. So for sons, where you're obligated to teach them Torah, then you can't use meiser for tuition. If it's daughters, they say also today that you can't use it for tuition, but there is a way out. There's a way out. There's ways out. There's halachic ways out. One of them is that the tuition today, you're not paying for your kids, you're paying for all the other kids that don't pay. Your own kids' tuition is a percentage. So if you could figure that out, the rest could be meiser. And then there's other solutions as well.
Wow. Yeah. University, they call that parity. They charge, let's say, $40,000 for tuition, but the real cost is 20. The extra 20 is scholarships for everybody else. So that would be taxed.
Yeah, that would be like just the donation to the. Yeah, that's what some of the placements say. Yeah, there's a machlekes about everything, but but when I asked the accountant in the school, the bookkeeper, what's the actual price per student and what's the donation part? He said no one ever asked me that. Anyway.
I would assume
I think
any
you
part
can
of
figure it
it
out.
is for your own benefit. I think that's disqualified outright.
Yeah, but nevertheless, there are certain causes that just because happens to be your relative doesn't mean they shouldn't get any money.
I'm not saying relative. I'm saying like, I guess I don't know if son's relative.
We have the obligation to take care of our closest family first.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It doesn't mean that that's meiser though. But yeah, but nevertheless, I think it says that a percentage is okay. Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel halacha kribshim ben Elazar. The halacha is kribshim ben Elazar. Now Kribshim ben Elazar, he was the one that was talking about that if you made a change, if you changed an item, if you improved it, or it got weaker, you can still give it back. You can still give it back, which means basically that Shmuel just paskin that shinei b'mkayim hayomed. It changed as much as it changed, it stays the same. That's what Shmuel just said. Gemara says, "Mi amar Shmuel hachi." Shmuel said that. V'amar Shmuel says the opposite. He says, "Ein shaman loylagan of loylagalas ela l'nezaken." Now, for a guy, let me tell you what it says by nezaken. By nezaken, it says is that if someone damages another ox, you have to evaluate what the damaged ox is worth. You keep not you, the one that damaged the victim keeps the damaged ox, and the perpetrator pays the difference between the two. When it comes to a thief, we say ein shaman. We don't give the let's say the item changed or the item broke something. We don't evaluate how much the broken pieces are worth, give it back to the original owner and let him pay the difference between them. That would mean that the original item still belongs to the original owner, even though it's changed. We don't do that. Rather, what we do is we say, okay, you're the ganav, you keep all the broken pieces and pay the full price, pay the original price. Shalom Chasag Zela. Shalom Chasag Zela means that Shinai, when it changed, it makes a big difference. It changed. Now you've acquired everything. So Shmuel really holds that a change does matter. And now you told me that Shmuel says that a change doesn't matter. So the Gemara says, Bishleim Rava, we can figure this out. Amar ki kam Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Amar kasha dahada. When Shmuel said that like Reb Shimon ben Elazar, he never said that a change doesn't make a difference, because he was only talking about a change that's reversible, a reversible change. Like, for example, you put the animal on a diet and then you return it, so they feed it a little more corn. So like kasha, that's not going to be a problem.
So Rob and I'm trying to think about the verb.
Oh. Thief steals and the robber robs. The thief breaks in at night. No, he doesn't want anyone to see him. The robber just takes things. Which is worse? We consider the thief worse because he gives more value to what people think of him than what God thinks of him. But the robber doesn't care about anyone, not people, not God. So we see he's more consistent. Okay. So when did he say that a shine stays the same? That's only when it's a reversible shine. That you only do that evaluation of what the broken pieces are worth and the original owner keeps it. That's only by damages. That's by kasha d'layhada. That's when it's irreversible. That's only by damages. But when it's by Geneva, then we say that that he acquires it, the thief acquires it, and he has to pay the original value. That's by irreversible damage. Okay, that's what we sort of understood. Elala Abaya, but according to Abaya, but according to Abaya, that says that Reb Shimon ben Elazar held this even by irreversible damages, you still don't acquire it. What's it to say? There's a clear contradiction in Shmuel. The Gemara answers, Abaya Masni Hachi. Abaya would teach what Rabbi Yehuda said, the following. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. He adds in one word. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. Amru. They said, Halacha Reb Shimon ben Elazar. That the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar. V'leilei svirli, but he doesn't hold like that. Reminds me of that Kedusi. And you're familiar with the Kedusi, Shalom? You know, Itchy Kedusi? You know what that is? It's like this comic on the kids watch. But anyway, in one of these things, there's this guy, this character, Jono, is funny, but he says, like, for example, your name, Jonathan, is Yonatan in Hebrew. So he says, no, it's not. My name is Naphtali. So he says, why is it Naphtali? He says, well, my parents wanted to name me Moshe. So how do you get John? I said they wanted to name me Moshe, but anyway. So over here, Shmuel says halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda says halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. The halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar says no. They said the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar, but I don't hold like that. Okay. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Chia bar Abba is the great student of Rabbi Yochanan. He says, Dvar Torah, according to the biblical law, Gezela hanishtanes chezeres beinah. Truth is that even if you change it, you just give it right back. Give back just all the pieces, just give it back. Shenemar beheshev es gzela, and my Gemara says ashagazal, but I'd like to take it out. Mikol makim, take out the words ashagazal. As it says, return the stolen item in whatever case it's in. Nevertheless, mikol makim, in whatever state it's in. Now, the asher gazal is a problem because what the other Gemara taught us was that you have to return the item that you stole. It's not that you stole, then it's not the original item that you returned. But Rabbi Yochanan is really ignoring the asher gazal. He's saying, "V'heshev es hagzela." He's stopping right there. You have to return the stolen item in whatever case it's in. And he's ignoring the Asher Gazel. Yeah, that's how he's learning it. Vim Taimer Mishnah Seinu. 1 second. Our Mishnah says that you keep the broken the change that you made and you give back the value. It says the Mishum Takanas Hashavim. That's in order because you might have made improvements in it. You're not going to want to give it back. So we tell you that you just pay the original price. That's Rabbi Yechon really said that that's the rule, that Minatayra, there's no such thing as Shinai. Rabbi Yechon halacha kistam Mishnah. Rabbi Yechon says halacha is like a stam Mishnah. That's a rule that we have all over Shas. And who says that? Rabbi Yechon. That the halacha is like an anonymous Mishnah. Utanan leyispik nitlayat shitzavei. Person didn't have the opportunity to give the Rashis Hagez, the first sharings of wool to the Kayan, and he already dyed it. So it says he's pater because he already made a change. 1 second. If we're talking about someone that stole and we want him to do tshuva and we tell him that you don't have to give the original, you don't have to give all the improvements back, you could just give the original price, make it easier on him. So fine. That's a takanas hashavim. That's what we're assisting the person that's doing tshuva. But over here, there's no takanas hashavim. We're not assisting him in anything. What do you mean? What are we trying to get him to do? It's a regular, straightforward halacha. Does this sharing of wool combine with that sharing of wool to give to the kayan? And nevertheless, he says that he's exempt. That means that he made a change. It's not because of a takanas hashavim. Amalahu ahu midirabanan Rabbi Yaakov Shmei. One of the sages, his name was Rabbi Yaakov, he said, and I actually heard the explanation from Rabbi Yechanan, so it's like this. Our Mishnah, where we said that that's a takanas hashavim, that we're trying to assist the repenter, that he should stop stealing and he should be able to return what he took. That's because, and we said that that's a takanas hashavim. We said that he only has to pay the original price. That's because the changes that he made in the Mishnah were reversible changes. And nevertheless, we said that he only has to pay the original price. So, however, if it would be irreversible changes, then we would say that he's actually kind of irreversible changes.
I wonder if there's any concept of having someone make a permanent change and he has to go back and change it again back to its original. Like he didn't change it so that it's better or worse, just different.
Right. That would be if it changed the name.
Put
then
in money to revert it back to its original.
No, I don't know if he has to do that. Either he pays the original price, or he gives the item back. Yeah. Yeah.
Are they gonna disclose if the person gave up on the item?
Yeah, I think the giving up on the item comes in to play as the underlying thing. That's more, I think Taisus has been throwing that around a little bit, that he is giving up hope. Yeah. Before that was the main point, right? So it's giving up hope together with something else that makes the difference. I'm just concerned over here that what does Rabbi Yechanan actually hold? Because he said Dvar Torah Gezel Nishtanis Chayzer Spei now. What does he mean by that? Gezel Nishtanis? Does he mean even a real change, or does he mean just a reversible change? What do they say now? What at the conclusion of this Gemara? Number 8. Thus, Rabbi Yochanan agrees that a change does affect acquisition under biblical law. His statement that physical change does not affect acquisition was made in reference to our Mishnah's ruling that one who stole wood and made it utensils acquires it, refers to one who stole a piece of planed wood and assembled them into a utensil, as explained by Abaya. Oh, so it's only what Rabbi Yochanan really meant was reversible changes is not considered a change. Yeah, that's where we're holding now. That's where we're holding.
People that go to like buffets and they take a bunch of food home and eat in there. Is that considered stealing?
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. I don't know under what category it goes.
Sometimes it's actually a cultural thing.
Charge you by the pound.
I was at a wedding in Crown Heights. Did I tell you this? I was at a wedding, and I was sitting next to this guy who was like a beggar. In Crown Heights, there's some beggars come to the tables, and that's how it was in Europe also. And they set up a table for that. But anyway, this beggar kept calling over the waiter. They were walking around, and they were serving I don't know whatever parekas or something. Anyway, he calls the waiter. I want some more. So the waiter comes by and he puts some more down. He puts it on his plate. And meanwhile, this guy had a big container. He actually bought like Tupperware, like, and he would empty it into his bag, and he would like seal the thing back up. And then he would, waiter, more, waiter, I need more, and then it was amazing. They just
Feels prepared.
yeah. Okay. The end of that story is that this beggar tells me that he has a lot of money, and he has someone that's a trustee that's taking care of his different apartments in Las Vegas or something. And I said, "Oh, you should give it to Chabad." He said, "No, I'm giving it to the trustee. She's very nice to me. I'm leaving it. She's not Jewish." But I said, "No, you shouldn't." It was he had inherited from his father, whatever. He's a Jewish guy. Anyway, it's interesting. Interesting. Everyone's got a story. Taner Rabbanan, Taner Abraisa Gazlanim Umalvi Beribis Sheikh Zero, talking about a robber or people that lend money on interest that now they decide that they want to change their lifestyle. So ein makablamem. We don't accept the things when they're giving it back. And v'makablamem, someone that does accept when they're returning it. Ein rachachamim leichem, and the sages aren't happy with that. They want to say, okay, just stop. What was. Okay, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "B'mei Rabbi Nishnas Mishnazu." That Mishnah, that is really a brisa. That was said in the days of Rabbi. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Ma'aseh b'adam echad. We have a brisa that says like this: there's a story. Person shebikesh lashas tshuva. He wants to do tshuva. Amalei ishtay. His wife says, "Reika." Reika is it's not ishtay Reika, right? It's Amalei ishtay Reika. She's calling him Reika, right? Imata isa tshuva. If you're gonna do tshuva, filo avnei deina shalcha. You're not even gonna have your own belt. He listened to his wife. What a good husband. And he didn't do tshuva. At that time they said, we really shouldn't be accepting from them because we should help them do tshuva. It's interesting because what does tshuva mean if you don't return it? Must mean that tshuva means that he's going to stop stealing and he's going to regret it. It must mean like the other parts of tshuva, not returning the or maybe the tshuva means that he attempts to return, and we tell him that no. But then if he knows that we're not going to take it, is that really attempting? What is
They have to return it. We've been discussing that about the robber.
Right.
Okay, they not charge him extra, but at least to return what you stole.
Right.
Well, house, he has to think, which house did I steal this from? I have a radio and I have a washing machine.
Okay,
I have a
give
car.
it as donation if you can.
I have one of my guys in the yeshiva told me an unbelievable story. He's from England, and the robber came into his grandparents' house and saw some food on the table. Took off his jacket, he hung it in the closet. He sat down to eat. When he got up to leave, he put his jacket back on, and he left. But he took the wrong jacket hanging in the closet. Here, the proper this robber was. He hung up his jacket to sit down to eat. Takes the wrong jacket, and when they came downstairs, they found his jacket with his wallet in it and all his identification.
Oh, wow.
Then what happened?
They caught him. All because he took off his jacket to eat. Okay, so yeah, apparently there's more to tshuva than just returning the item. There's other parts of this. Basically, the Gemara has a question. If the father leaves the children money for ribbis, that money that he earned through interest, which he wasn't supposed to lend the Jew money with interest. Even though they know that it's ribbis, they know that it's interest. They don't have to return it. Inuhu delight. It's the children that don't have to, but the father, he does have to return it. Now, 1 second. You just told me that they're not supposed to be accepting it. It says, the truth is the father also doesn't have to return. But why did they say with the children, which makes it look that only the inheritors don't have to? Because there's another part to this, which says, the Brisa continues, it says, if there's an item that's recognizable, a talus or a cow, that if they don't return it, people are going to walk around and they're going to say, you see that talus? That's the one that so-and-so's father, guy stole from someone else through whatever. So with that, such an item we're supposed to return. Okay, now.
Doesn't that motivate people to steal? You want to motivate people to do tshuva, but you want to motivate them to stop stealing. Now they know that if they steal, they don't have to return. What's the Takanas showing? Who comes first?
Now, if we catch someone stealing and we take him to court, he has to pay. Here we have a guy that after many years decides, he comes forward and he says, you know what, I've been charging interest, I've been doing this, I want to stop. I want to find me the businesses, tells the business, find me all the people that I've harmed, or something like that. I want to make up for what I've done. He's coming on his own.
You could steal in a second after you steal. You come to business. You just got your get out of jail card. Steal. It motivates a person to steal. He steals. He says, "Here's business. I want to return." Okay, you don't have to return. Why would you motivate people to steal?
Okay, let's take a look. Something's gonna. You'll see a little shift in the Gemara. So
if someone takes rivers, two people have done something wrong.
Right.
And if you just hold it the way it is, there's no tshuva for the one who paid
Yeah,
it.
that's an interesting point.
Who is the two people, the one who receives?
Maybe the guy never paid him the ribbis. Maybe he lent it with interest. No, but then what are we saying that he doesn't have to pay it back? Obviously, he paid him back, right? That's the point. The point is that he earned money from it, and we're saying he doesn't have to pay it back. Yeah. So because we said I'm sorry.
When they received the catalon, maybe he had no other choice.
So the truth is that really the father also doesn't have to return, but the only thing is there were certain items that it was important for us to say that the children need to return. So we spoke about before, even by the money, that the children need to return. That's what was just keeping it symmetrical. Gemara says, what do you mean? They have to return because of the honor of their father, the items that the father stole or the father charged interest and now he has. We should only be concerned about the honor of someone that's religious. Even when it comes to a nasi, that's an important person amongst your nation, you shouldn't curse him. That's only if he's following the Torah. Okay. The Gemara says, we're talking about that the father did tshuva. It says, okay, the father did tshuva, and that's why we're concerned about his honor. Gemara asks, my boy Gabe, if he's really did tshuva, then why is this item still exist? He should have returned it. It says, funny, the Gemara could have said he wanted to return it, but the people didn't want to take it because they were following the takana. Anyway, the Gemara says that he died before he was able to. He did tshuva on his deathbed, but he didn't have a chance to take the items back to the owners. So that we tell the sons to do that. Okay, now we go back to explain another point. Tashema, agazlanu malvi beribis. These people that stole and they charged interest off pishagavu, even though they've collected it. Machzirin, they return it. The interest is Now, before they've collected it, then we tear up the document and we restart that loan. But once they've collected, but even once they've collected it, we still we have them return it. What does it mean? A thief's what they've collected. Thieves don't collect; they steal. It says no. If they stole, then they stole. If they didn't steal, then they didn't steal. What do you mean? Even though they've collected it. Elaima, rather, what it means, hagazlanim, robbers. Which type of robbers are we talking about? Malvi beribis, people that lend money on interest. Even though they've collected it, machzirin. Gemara says, "Ami machzirin vein makablamem Allah machzirin." They said if they return it, but we don't accept it, them. So why are we doing this? Why are they returning it? It says, "Let's just see they shemayim." They return it in order to fulfill their obligation of returning it, but the recipients shouldn't accept it. Okay.
So this pairing of ribis and gazlanot, does this indicate that the idea behind ribis is that you're stealing? Someone who takes interest is stealing?
That's what it looks like.
Uh-huh.
Because it's money that they weren't supposed to make.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, this is total Marxism. This is regarded as theft. The other thing is, I go into a country like Peru, I take the artifacts from an expedition, I put it in my museum, and 50 years later, the country says, Peru says, well, just return those artifacts. You took our heritage.
Yeah.
Right, so they return it, or they don't return it. Like all the museums in New York are filled with these things from Egypt.
Right.
So in some countries, if they have any clout, they give it back, or they have a copy of it or something.
Yeah, like the British have the frieze of the Parthenon, the Elgin.
Right, in Berlin, they took a whole temple from,
Right.
that's 1,000 years old. And in Peru, they gave it back with a museum to make sure it wouldn't be sold to another museum. Here. So they took the safers.
They took the
safers.
What do you mean? People stole them?
Although it was related to the nephew.
Oh, the guy that took the svarim. Right. Okay. Tashima, Harayim Vagabayim Vamuchsin, tax collectors. Now we added in shepherds, Gabayim. What is it? What are they doing? They're also tax collectors. And Muchsim are another type of tax collectors, two types. One is like a head tax, one's another type. So Chuvas and Kasha, it's very hard to do repentance for them. But they do return to those people that they recognize. Once the Gemara says, Amri machzirin, if they return it, but you don't accept it from them, why do they return it? Rather, let's see Deshamayim. That's just to fulfill the hands of heaven to do what they're responsible to do. But if you don't accept it from them, so why do we say that it's difficult? Another problem is Ema and those people that they don't recognize because they don't remember who they took for so many taxes. But they should do something for the community. What does that mean? They should build wells, allow people to drink. And who's going to benefit from that? The people that they stole from, which means basically that they do return it. It depends. There was a time when this institution was made where they shouldn't be paying, you don't collect the money from the thief that when he's repaying it. That was a takana that Rebbe made before the takana. Then they did take it back. So this Mishnah over here was before the takana. Bastard the Amar Rav Nachman, but now that Rav Nachman said b'shein gezela kayemes, that if the original item doesn't exist, that's when we say that you don't take it from them. Then we can say that everything here is talking about after the takana. And what's the difference for Leikashim? We have no contradictions because kan b'gzela kayemes, kan b'shein gezela kayemes. The difference is, does the original item exist or not? If the original item exists, then you have to return it. And if the original item doesn't exist, then we say that you don't accept it from them, the value of it. I'm going to ask 1 second. In that story where we had this man that wanted to do tshuva, and his wife says you won't even own your own belt. They instituted over there. They instituted there that he shouldn't have to return it. But 1 second. the belt that he stole, why shouldn't he have to return it? Rav Nachman says that if it's the original item, you have to return it anyway, and they should accept the original item. It's only when it's not the original item. Over there, they said he won't even have his belt. The Gemara says, "My avnate to may avnate." But she didn't mean that the belt was stolen. She meant that you won't even have your belt. That means you won't even have your belt because you're going to owe everything to all the people. Okay. Now, it wasn't the actual belt, correct? Okay. 1 second. If the original item exists, then the sages didn't say that the sages didn't make this institution that they shouldn't have to give it back. But 1 second, there's a story with a beam, the Gzela Kayemasi, that the beam still exists. Someone built it into his house. It's Tanan. You have a Mishnah, a Maresha Gazel. Someone stole a beam from a construction site, Shabano Bebira, and he built it into his own house. Right? He jumped over the fence by a construction site, and he took the stuff and he brings it over the fence and he builds it into his house. It says instead of taking apart his house to do tshuva and to take the beam out, they said he just has to pay the value. So over here, the original item exists. You told me the original item you have to return. It says Shani Hasam, the Kivan de Kapseda the Bira Shavi Rabbanan Kitalesa. Because there would be a loss if it would have to demolish his whole thing. So the sages considered it as if it wasn't there. Now, what was an interesting thing over here, what just happened, is that we just said that he has to pay the value. We were saying before that they don't even take the value. Rashi answers the question. Says since the original item exists, so then we take the value. In cases where the original item exists, but we're not taking the original item, then we'll take the value. In cases where the original item doesn't exist, then we tell the people not to accept even the value. Yeah, that's how Rashi answers that. Okay, let's leave it over here.
You took the beam, the original structure, like, fall down.
Yeah, if you would take the beam out. Oh, you're talking about the thief or when we return it?